GM. Today, I'm going to talk about the hot hand fallacy, as requested by one of my captains. So if you don't know, you'll have seen this in some of my lessons, if you've been through boot camp especially, or if you've seen some of the probability lessons. There is a fallacy, a cognitive bias known as the hot hand fallacy or the gambler's fallacy, which is a bias where you feel like a successful outcome is going to come again or has a greater chance of success because you've had winners previously. So, when you're winning, you feel like you're on a streak and you think you're going to win more. That's the hot hand fallacy. There is no such thing. It is entirely 100% irrational. It is not grounded in any logic. If you think that when you win or lose trades that you're on a hot or a cold streak, which implies that the streak is going to continue, it is absolutely false. People are generally quite bad at identifying this because, I don't know, maybe it's something in our superstitious nature. Maybe it's the fact that many of us believe in fate, believe in, that something is meant to be. We look for signs where there aren't signs, or patterns where there aren't patterns, or we believe in whatever, right? It can also lead people down the path of just making bad mistakes, outright bad decisions based upon faulty logic. So, being successful as a trader is not a predictor of more success to come. This is why casinos stay in business. This is why betting shops, bookmakers, stay in business. There's a saying, you've never met a broke bookie. Right? You've never met a broke bookie. Bookies almost never go out of business. And in fact, because I used to work in that industry, I literally used to work for one of the biggest bookmakers in the world and a bunch of smaller ones. And apart from mismanagement, bookmakers and casinos never go out of business because they lose money, right? They never go out of business because their customers win so much money that they go broke. They go out of business for other reasons. Again, mismanagement from the company, reckless spending, fucking fraud, whatever. Getting shut down, regulations changing. But their business model is absolutely sound. They know that dumb money will continue to come in and gamble, whether it's on sports or in casinos, because they believe in luck. I just need to hit a streak. If I just hit a few winners in a row, I'll make loads of money. So, how does this apply here? Well, we've gone up for 6 months, right? So, in the last 6 months in crypto, if you basically just held anything, you've made money. That's one thing. Right? I think most of us can realize, and all of you can realize, that if you're just holding spot and the market goes up, you don't necessarily think you're on a lucky streak, a hot streak. You just think, yeah, I'm holding and it's a bull market. But if you've been trading in the past 6 months, actively trading, you will probably have achieved, as long as you've been predominantly going long, you've probably achieved quite good results, and you've probably been on or are currently on some kind of winning streak. It's important to not let that go to your head. When everything's going good, you feel like it's going to keep going good. And we are very bad, first of all, as humans, very bad at identifying what is a hot streak and what's just random statistical probability. The secret is, it's always random statistical probability. And even worse, we are really bad at identifying when it ends. And most of you will lose money not by getting it all taken off you, but by giving away your hard-earned gains. One of the most common stories you hear from traders in bull markets is not that they lose everything. How many times have you heard something like this? I started with 10k. At the peak it was 500k. And then I didn't sell and I held it all the way back down, and now it's back to 30k or 40k. And they feel terrible, even though objectively they have more money than they started with. But because they gave in to the hot hand fallacy and they thought that every time they bought coins it went up, or every time they took trades it was just winning, and they got it all the way from 10 to 500k and that wasn't enough, and they're like, no, let's go million, let's keep going, I'm on a streak. And they couldn't identify that the market conditions had changed, or that it's just irrational to think that that kind of growth could sustain forever. They didn't sell, they didn't take profit, they didn't get out, they didn't identify when the market was over, bull market ends or whatever, and they end up holding it all the way back down. So you have to avoid that. How do you avoid it? How do you avoid the hot hand fallacy? By simply being aware of it. Just remind yourself every day. There's no such thing as a winning streak. There's no such thing as a losing streak. Now they're real. You really do have streaks of winners and streaks of losers. But there's no such thing as a hot or cold streak. You are not hot or cold. You are not in a phase of winning or in a phase of losing. Because by saying that, that implies that it's going to continue. Oh, I'm on a cold streak right now. Can't get a winner. What do you mean? Your last trade didn't win. Your trade before that didn't win. It has no bearing on your next trade. People don't seem to understand this. And the way I've learned, or when I first started, how I learned to conceptualize this is separate the time. So the reason why people think they're on a streak, and I actually learned this first of all from gambling, from the gambling industry. The reason people think they're on a streak is because their bets or their trades happen in a short time frame. So let me give an example. If you trade every day, or you trade multiple times per week, and you have nothing but winners or nothing but losers for a week, you're going to feel like that's a hot or a cold streak. You might even say something like, I'm having a hot week, a good week, or I'm having a cold week or a bad week. But if you took a trade now, and then took a trade a year from now, with no trades in between, you wouldn't consider 2 losers, or even 3 losers, as being a streak. The streak and the tendency for us to think in terms of streaks tends to be directly correlated to the time frame, the amount of time between our trades or our bets. This is why if you watch documentaries or you see any movies or clips about gamblers, especially in Vegas, why do you think they keep going back? They go there, they lose all their money in a week or a month or a weekend. They go off, they fucking wash dishes and sweep floors to gather up a little bit of money again, and they come back 3 months later to try again. Why? Because when you separate time from the initial event, especially the superstitious mind, they think, oh no, that was just bad luck. That was an unlucky streak. That was a cold streak. I'm feeling good now. I'm going to go back in. It's 3 months later. I've forgotten about that. Our brains are very easily able to rationalize this away. Oh, it's fine. That was the old me. That was back then when I had bad luck for whatever reason. This time will be different. No, it won't. It's the exact same. The reason why people have hot streaks in the casino or in sports betting is because it's statistically guaranteed. If you take enough bets, eventually you'll have 4 or 5 or 6 winners in a row. But also, guess what's statistically guaranteed in the casino or in sports betting too? That if you take enough bets, you will lose all your money over time because it's rigged against you. Casinos have an edge. Every casino game has a built-in edge. Sports betting, they have an edge through their spread. You can't trade or bet both sides of the spread and make money. If there's a match between 2 players, like a tennis match, one player might be 1.8, the other player might be 1.95. So you can't even get evens, which would be 2. You can't get evens on both players. Meaning, if you bet on both, you still lose. Because if you bet on both, you'll lose one, obviously, and the one that wins will not make back double or more of your money. That is the spread. That's the difference. Just like there's a spread in the markets and trading between the bid and the offer. So that's how sports betting, that's how they make their money. That's how bookies never go broke. They build in the edge. And they have teams of actuarists, people who analyze numbers and crunch the numbers, quant types, who analyze the statistical probabilities of everything to make sure they always have an edge. Casinos build it into their games. In the markets, you don't have any of that. So you feel as if it's somehow more in your control. It's not. All you can do is take a large number of trades and understand that the big difference between trading and gambling is that the more bets you take in gambling, the closer you are to losing everything. Because remember, there is an edge that they have. If you ever play a roulette machine or a poker machine and you read on the top of it, it will say, by law, they have to say what the edge is. It will say this machine has a 97% payout rate. Meaning that over time, over a large number, not on any one spin, you might make money, you might lose money, but over time, 97% will be the return. Meaning, if you put in 10,000, you would be left with 9,700 at most, if not losing more. So they use the law of large numbers to their benefit. A casino can lose money on any one spin. Someone can just walk in, put money in, spin, and win. But when they have thousands of people doing millions of spins, that 97% becomes rock solid. It's pure maths, law of large numbers. The larger your sample set, the closer you get to the true probability. The exact same is true in trading, except the opposite. If you build a system that has a slight edge, the way that edge plays out is by doing hundreds and hundreds of trades so that you make money over time. If you have a 60% win rate system or a 70% win rate system, it doesn't mean that every trade you take has 70% chance of winning. It means that if you take enough trades, you will end up with 70% of winners. Each individual trade is basically 50-50. It can win or it can lose. But over a large series, you get to realize that edge. So the simplest way to understand the hot hand fallacy and to avoid it is to understand the law of large numbers. It is just pure maths. The more trades you take, the more likely you are to have a streak of winners or losers. If you take enough trades, it is guaranteed that you will have a streak of winners or losers. It does not mean you have done anything special. It just means you have taken lots of trades. So let that be comfort for you when you're losing. There's no such thing as a cold streak. And let that be taking you down a notch when you're winning, right? Keeping your ego in check when you're winning, because there's no such thing as a hot streak. Remember that.